It's something, frankly, we've never seen before in entertainment or in the broader marketplace, but it's happening, and it's happening to Star Wars. The Walt Disney Company completely stuck with nothing that they can do until they jettison the part of the franchise that's deeply unpopular. It turns out the sequel trilogy is killing them. They're not willing yet to let it go, but fans are so angry, and the data proves this. Fans are saying it's time to punish Star Wars. Hello folks, and welcome back yet again to the channel that continues to change hearts and minds simply by telling the truth with a capital T. And what do we need from you? Well, no money, of course, just a click of the like button. And folks, with that, let's get underway with the damage done to Disney and fans angry saying it's time to punish a galaxy far, far away. Well, Dave Filoni is in the hot seat. There's no doubt about that anymore. If you look at USA Today, Brian Truitt says Filoni's vision for Star Wars future dare to be great. That's how they were positioning this just before the Mandalorian and Grogu came out. I have doubts now that they're continuing to see, well, sun rays and sunshine ahead for this guy. The Star Wars galaxy doesn't have George Lucas anymore. Instead, it's got the next best thing. His apprentice. Remember, they said this before the weekend came out for Mando. Dave Filoni worked closely with Lucas in the 2000s while honchoing the Clone Wars animated series, the most significant Star Wars project for fans between the prequel trilogy and the sequels. After working on several franchise TV shows like Ahsoka and the Book of Boba Fett, boy, wouldn't you love to have those to your name? Filoni is now the Jedi Master, being tapped as Lucasfilm President and Chief Creative Officer in January. Quote, "I'm very excited and I feel very privileged to be in this position," he said. "I learned from the best, not just George, but the people that were foundational to Lucasfilm during the prequel era, some from the original." But things are not going well for Mr. Filoni. Even Polygon now is mocking the man who's in charge of Lucasfilm for his cameos inside the Mandoverse. Trapper Wolf is his name. They say that his cameo actually reminds people of Star Wars' biggest failure. And I would say that's not the way you want things to go down, is if you show up, you don't get the Stan Lee reception. Instead, people say, yeah, it kind of reminds me of total and utter failure. Now, what is the total and utter failure we're talking about? Well, folks, I am here to tell you that I believe that Star Wars fans are doing something we have seldom seen in entertainment or even in the marketplace in general. And that is, I believe Star Wars fans are actively punishing Lucasfilm for The Last Jedi. And I mean that, and I'll show you why I think that. Solo: A Star Wars Story was not terrible. It's not a good movie, but it's not terrible. And yet, Solo: A Star Wars Story made $393 million, more than Mando is likely to make now, in 2018, just after The Last Jedi came out. Now, of course, The Last Jedi did pretty darn well, making well over $1 billion, but it was a fall off from The Force Awakens. But it also, I think, was a bait and switch that many people truly hated. And I would also dare say that Rise of Skywalker falls in that same category. Yes, Rise of Skywalker made more than $1 billion, which is less than half of Force Awakens. But I also think that people showed up to that film just because they said, I've got 30, 40 years invested in this franchise. I have to see how it ends, even if it's terrible. And one of the reasons that I think that that's the case is because if I go down and I look at the leg out, 2.9 is the leg out for this film, which is to say it didn't even make a 3X. This thing was very much front-loaded. And it seems like Star Wars movies now all may be front-loaded, as it's down to just the Disney fans, and there aren't many of them. Nobody's really going to see these things anymore. I want to ask the question of the panel and just have a free-form conversation on this. Is this still about The Last Jedi? I know a lot of people hate the rise of Palpatine. They hate the rise of Skywalker. But I think this is The Last Jedi. I think this has been all the way. We're now at a decade of just total annihilation for this franchise ever since Rian Johnson came in and subverted expectations, destroyed Luke, destroyed the sequel trilogy. And I think that people are not ever going to allow them to get off the mat until they drop that. I think Disney has been in a 10-year denial, and I think now we can see it in box office patterns. Vera, I start with you. Do you think that's true? Do you think that the fandom, maybe this is revenge of the fandom, and maybe that's why Filoni's in the hot seat, he gets no relief until the sequels go away.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that's part of it. Obviously, we've just seen a decline in storytelling quality overall over just Hollywood in general over the past decade. But that was really, I think, when fans started to say enough is enough. And that was a breaking point for a lot of people. And that's why these new shows have been scrutinized so much. I mean, look at The Mandalorian. Why would I go and see The Mandalorian and Grogu in theaters as an average customer if I could just watch it on streaming in a couple of weeks? And that's like a situation that they themselves have created because they've pushed that so much. But I mean, unfortunately, you know, I'm the first person to say I'd love for Star Wars to be fixed. Knights of the Old Republic is one of my favorite video games of all time. It was such an amazing story. And in theory, I'd love to see a show of that story, and I'd love for them to turn things around. But I don't think that they're going to do that based on the activists that are working at this company. Filoni himself loved Kathleen Kennedy. We see what happened with him. But they also just, the people that they're hiring don't know how to make Star Wars feel emotional anymore and to form that connection with the audience anymore. And I do think that that's because they've forgotten the hero's journey. They don't know the teachings of Joseph Campbell anymore. They want to add current labels to brand new stories, and they've moved away from like the mythological past of the hero's journey and the mythology that George Lucas himself had created and why people connected with Star Wars.
I think that all of that is exactly true. And I think we actually have data to bear that out. Let's walk through it real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the numbers, we're going to go to a different sci-fi property, Project Hail Mary. Came out earlier this year. I loved it. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a phenomenal film. I think everybody, literally everybody, should see the film. I think it's just tremendous. Kudos to Andy Weir. Kudos to the guys that Kathleen couldn't stand and kicked out of Solo. If you know the story, you know. $675 million worldwide box office. It continues to climb. It may get to 700. Why? Because of the legs. When we talk about legs, we're talking about how much better the film does in comparison to the first weekend that it's released. And you can see here the legs for Project Hail Mary are 4.22. Now, we've seen better. Top Gun Maverick, for example, is far superior in terms of legs, but 4.22 is not bad. Well, what do we see when we go look at movies like The Last Jedi? Well, if we look at The Last Jedi, which I think was very unpopular, you can see a distinct drop-off. Yes, The Last Jedi made more than $1 billion, but it only has 2.82. If it had performed anything like The Force Awakens, which had 4x, then it would have been, you know, it would have been right there with The Force Awakens. The drop-off began after the first weekend of The Last Jedi, and this franchise has never recovered since. If we go and look at The Force Awakens, you can see its legs were 3.78. Not as high as Project Hail Mary, but not bad either. And now we expect Mandalorian and Grogu to be all the way down at 2.25. And that means the people who still love Star Wars still go to see it, and then it collapses. And that's not a great place for it to be. So, panel, I turn back to any of you who'd like to weigh in on this. Did this franchise die at Last Jedi, or was there more to this? Is this a non-recoverable franchise so long as Last Jedi exists?
I don't know that people actively went out to sabotage it. I just think that they don't care. You know, when they're insulted, when they're spat in the face, they just turn and walk away. You know, if there was, I think that that's part of the spin that the media is trying to put on it. Like, they just love to hate it. Well, that's their narrative. That's their excuse for why it's doing bad. But real people that don't like something, they just don't go see it.
Right. It's like if you got
our job here is like, we have to go see this crap. Mm-hmm. And then we talk about it, and then they look at us and see, they just want to hate it. Well, no, it's actually the people just don't want to see it. They don't have the energy to hate it. They don't care about it enough to hate it,
Yeah. I love Star Wars. I really do. I don't like the current writers of Star Wars. I think they're talentless.
They're not at all.
Yeah, like they don't know. And I know a lot of the studios are using AI to help them write scripts, which really hurts me. And I really just kind of want to have like a seminar where I bring them all into a room and I'll be like, so this is how you write dialogue, and this is how you do character arcs, and this is how we do panel, and transitions and things like that. But I mean, look behind me right now. I mean, I have a Mandalorian fan art. I have a custom Mandalorian rifle that I made out of foam. right? I cosplay as a Mandalorian. I love Mandalorian everything in Star Wars. Like I know way too much about like this fictional history than I do about the US history, right? And it's because I love it so much that when I see it and I see that it's done badly, like it upsets me. It's like watching a child do a math problem wrong. It's like, no, sweetheart. No, see, when you do that, you have to carry that number over and then you get the correct answer. And instead of like trying to help them, because fans did for a long time, they're kind of like, hey, we saw that you did this in the film. We just wanted to let you know that you got this wrong right here. And instead of being mature about it, being like, oh, we done boofed up, because business blindness does happen, right? It just, things slip through the cracks. It happened like everywhere, at every level. But instead of acknowledging it, they were like, no, you're wrong and you are a bad thing. And now we're going to call you names until you stop talking. And it was like, I was literally just trying to help you.
Right. Well, it's toxic positivity, right? They won't allow any criticism to exist. Now,
Look,
go ahead.
People, if you think of all the great movies you've ever seen from the past, because presently there aren't that many, if they were about heroism, the people who wrote them and directed them knew heroes. If they were about love, they'd either personally been in love or seen it. These people today, they are in such a it's all about me world that they don't have any reference points in reality to understand concepts like love and a quest and a journey and heroism and self-sacrifice. So no wonder they can't write it. They have no clue about it. And that's the core problem. That's the core problem.
Lou, let me do a follow-up with you. So Dave Filoni in the hot seat. There are a lot of people wondering now what happens to Filoni. This movie is going to be a flop. We know that because Disney has declared it needs $600 million to break even. It will come nowhere close. Disney executive Rando said that in a THR article. So, Lou, I have a theory that if Starfighter also comes in low, that's it for Filoni. I think that Filoni was put in place by prior leadership. I don't see any reason that Disney execs, as they're currently constituted, would want to keep him around. They have to find somebody fast who can fix this thing.
Well, and like you say, it was the prior leadership, so they have no skin in the game. DeMauro didn't pick him, and so it's easier for him to dump him. It's not a reflection back on himself the way it would have been for Big Bob to dump Kathleen someplace along the line. So yeah, absolutely.
You think Ahsoka could go then?
Oh, yeah.
Not Ahsoka, but you think that Filoni could go?
Oh, hell yeah.
Pretty much the same thing when we say Filoni and Ahsoka. They're the same character.
Yeah, but I mean, look, diamonds are forever, but jobs in Hollywood aren't. And well, like we've seen, for example, these 1-year contract extensions given to people in these various universes and these which was, hey, once the merger goes through, we'll reconsider, but for now, we'll keep you for another year. And everybody complaining about that Barry Weiss isn't clearing house fast enough. It takes time. It takes time. The very first piece I ever did for you guys a couple of years ago was about lead time and about the fact that the stuff that's in the pipeline has to get worked through. Just like your digestive tract, there's a lot of crap in there that needs to get through before we get to the good stuff. And that's true with these people too, unfortunately. But
there is a tremendous comment out in the chat, and we need to put it up on the screen. And then anybody who wants to hop in, feel free to do so. Firestreak Rodimus says, the question you need to be asking and answering is, why did a Disney exec leak the 600 million number to THR? And this goes to the point I'm trying to make. I have talked about this previously, and especially on the Valiant Renegade show, about, isn't it interesting that suddenly an exec showed up to leak this? And the angle everybody is taking is, well, he probably shouldn't have said that. Probably should have held that close to the vest. And now I'm starting to wonder, did Disney foresee this was going to perform badly, and they want people to know it's a flop, to start that conversation for what happens next? I don't know. Andy?
Well, you had said this when earlier you said that Filoni was George Lucas' apprentice. Well, George Lucas doesn't like anyone who gives him pushback. So that means that Filoni, being the apprentice, was just a yes man. George would say something and he would nod, and that's just Filoni. So when Kennedy took over, she would say something, he would just nod, and and say like, yes, have some. It's he doesn't have the ability to do the original ideas. He doesn't like, and you see his wife, who's the practicing witch, and all of a sudden we get space witches in Rebels. You get space witches in the Acolyte.
Everywhere.
There's people that just like pulls his strings and he dances for you. I think tomorrow will probably get to the point where he realizes that he needs somebody that's actually going to take some risks, that's actually going to steep themselves in the lore that the fans want. Because that's what you have to do, is you got to get the fans back first. You get the fans back, the normies will follow. If you don't get the fans back, the normies won't follow. So you're going to have to get somebody like I've said, Sam Witwer will probably be your best bet, because the guy really knows his Star Wars. Even if you just put him as a creative consultant, where everything has got to kind of get an approval for him, ditch Pablo Hidalgo, send him off on his little mini tricycle and stuff, and get somebody in that actually loves it.
I think all that is true. I think Filoni's in the hot seat. I think Disney's ready to rip off the Band-Aid. Ultimately, this is a company, and it's also a company that this isn't the leadership that was in charge for, the 10 years that if they destroyed the sequel trilogy, they would have to admit, well, we failed. This is all new leadership. And I think Filoni either gets on board or he's overboard as well. I think that's the case. And, it's the only way I see it, because the market has spoken so loudly. So Filoni either fixes this or he's out. And I think, now that I think about it, that $600 million leak to THR only makes sense from Disney if they want people to start knowing, hey, Star Wars is flopping. They want people to know that. I don't know. But that's where I see it going.
But see, it's just like when we've talked about the stock price and about when are these big investment outfits finally going to wake up to what's going on? The answer is when their own credibility is at stake. The credibility of Disney or of Filoni or of Kathleen Kennedy or any of these people is their problem. The problem is the people who continue to back them after that goes away, suddenly it reflects on them. It comes back on them. And that's where Josh is right now.
Well said, Lou. All right, folks, it's up to you. Tell us in the comments. Tell us in the chat. Where do you think it's at for Dave Filoni? Is he in the hot seat indeed, or does he have more runway from Disney? We want to hear from you. We really hope that you felt this video was satisfactual. We know we had an actual good time participating and communicating with each and every one of you out there listening. It is a great honor. It is a great pleasure, even a responsibility to do this on a daily basis. You give us the dream job we love doing, and for that we can never say thank you enough. There's only one small favor we ask beyond what has already been done, and that is, folks, consider it. That is clicking the like button. Share, subscribe, click it, stick it to those pesky algorithms. It's the notification bell, and drop a comment right on down below. Let us know your thoughts, because your thoughts do indeed matter, no matter what the mainstream media would otherwise say. Folks, as we say every single time we end these videos, because we mean it, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.